My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I was 31 years old when I realized the most expensive mistake I had ever made wasn't a credit card charge. It was believing love could eventually soften someone's entitlement. If you'd asked me during the first few months of dating Adrian Carter, I would have told you I had finally met someone confident enough to challenge me. 8 months later, I understood the truth. He wasn't confident. He was convinced the world owed him admiration, luxury, and constant validation, and I was expected to help finance all of it. We met at a mutual friend's art gallery opening downtown. Adrian had that effortless charm people mistake for character. Tailored jackets, perfect smile, stories about networking events, and luxury hotels. He worked in marketing and loved talking about branding, image, and success. I worked as a software engineer. My life was quieter, predictable, comfortable. I made good money, but I believed in savings, retirement accounts, emergency funds, and living below my means. At first, Adrian teased me about it. Then the teasing slowly became criticism. My apartment is cute, he would say while looking around my living room. Cute? You know, starter home energy. Or he'd wrinkle his nose at my wardrobe. You really should let me take you shopping someday. When we met my friends, he'd smile politely before whispering later. They're nice, just not exactly our crowd. Every comment landed softly enough that I convinced myself I was overreacting. Every apology afterwards sounded sincere enough that I ignored the knot forming in my stomach. My older sister warned me. Lauren, she said, one evening over dinner, does he ever compliment you without comparing you to someone else? I laughed. That's just his personality. She looked at me with quiet disappointment. No, it's his a bit. My personality doesn't make other people feel smaller. I defended him. Of course I did. When you're emotionally invested, red flags often look like temporary misunderstandings. Looking back now, I can pinpoint the exact moment everything changed. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was working from home, surrounded by lines of code and half-finished debugging notes when Adrian let himself into my apartment carrying his laptop. We need to talk about Greece, he announced. I didn't even look away from my monitor. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of something. No. He placed his laptop on my kitchen table. It can't. Isail and saved my work. Okay. He opened several travel websites. I want to leave in 2 weeks. So soon. Emma and Daniel just posted their Santorini pictures. He spun the screen toward me. It looked incredible. I have to go before summer ends. I rubbed my temples. 2 weeks is really short notice. I don't know if I can get time off. His expression didn't change. Then I'll go by myself. I blinked. What? You'll still pay. For a second, I honestly thought I'd misheard him. I'm sorry. You heard me. His tone was completely casual, as if we were discussing dinner reservations. You'll pay for the trip. It's the least you can do after making me wait this long. I stared at him. Adrian, I never promised to pay for a vacation. You make great money. He leaned back in his chair. You just waste it on boring things. My mortgage. My investments. My retirement. He shrugged. Exactly. Meanwhile, I'm dating someone who won't even take me somewhere memorable. My friends ask where we've traveled. I have nothing impressive to tell them. We went to Napa. He scoffed. A weekend wine trip doesn't count. Then he pushed the laptop closer. 5 nights. Luxury suite. Infinity pool. Business class flights. Private yacht dinner. Spa packages. Wine tastings. Every option selected without hesitation. The total is only around $12,000. I laughed because I honestly couldn't process what I was hearing. Only, he nodded. For both of us. Or just me, if you can't come. Either way, I'm going. I'm not paying over $14,000 for a vacation. His smile disappeared. Then came the laugh. Cold. Dismissive. The kind of laugh meant to remind someone exactly where they supposedly stood. Yes. You are. I felt something inside me become perfectly still. Why? He looked directly into my eyes. Because you're lucky I even date you. The room suddenly felt quieter. What? He folded his arms. Women like you don't get men like me. I could have dated women who would have booked this trip themselves. But I chose you. Because I thought you were dependable. The least you can do is treat me the way I deserve. He slid the laptop toward me one final time. So stop making this difficult. Give me your card. There are moments in life when anger disappears. Not because you've forgiven someone, because you finally understood them. Everything my sister had tried to tell me, every uneasy feeling, every condescending joke, every backhanded compliment, all of it suddenly aligned. I reached into my wallet, pulled out my credit card, and handed it to him. His eyebrows lifted. Seriously. I smiled. Go ahead. His entire personality transformed. His shoulders relaxed. His grin returned. He leaned over and kissed my cheek. I knew you'd come around. I promise you're going to love this. Or maybe I will if you stay home. He laughed at his own joke while typing rapidly. I watched him upgrade flights, upgrade the hotel, add experiences, increase the luxury package. Every click revealed another layer of entitlement. He never once looked back to ask whether I was comfortable with the price. The final confirmation appeared. 14美元 247.53. He clicked confirm without a second thought. There. He closed the laptop with satisfaction. I'm going shopping. I need clothes worthy of Santorini. He kissed me again. You really are the best. The apartment became completely silent after the door closed. I remained sitting at the kitchen table. 10 long minutes passed. I wasn't crying. I wasn't shaking. I was thinking. Then I opened my laptop. The first call was to my credit card company. A woman named Denise answered after 3 minutes of hold music. How may I help you today? I looked at the confirmation email still glowing on Adrian's laptop. I need to report a charge made without my permission. She asked for the amount. $14,247.53. There was a brief pause. Do you know who made the purchase? Yes. Did this person have access to your physical card? Yes. Her voice became more careful. Did you authorize the transaction? I stared at the closed apartment door. I handed him the card because he pressured me. I did not agree to that amount, and I did not consent to those purchases. Denise asked me to describe what had happened. I told her everything. The demand, the insult, the upgrades. The way Adrian had spent more than $14,000 without asking once whether I approved. She placed a fraud hold on the transaction, canceled the card, and issued a replacement number. The charges are still pending, she explained. We may be able to stop them before they fully process. Please do. When the call ended, I contacted the airline, then the resort, then the private cruise company. Some reservations could not be canceled directly because Adrian had made them under his name, but each company confirmed the same thing. If payment failed, the reservation would be voided automatically. By 9 that evening, the first charge disappeared from my account. Then another. Adrian texted me a photograph of shopping bags arranged across his bed. Bought everything I need for Greece. You should see the linen shirts. I replied with 2 words. Looks great. He sent back a heart. I barely slept that night. Not because I felt guilty. Because I knew the man who had spent 8 months making me feel small was about to discover that my silence had never been surrender. Adrian's flight was scheduled to leave at 6 the next morning. At 3:41, Meziu had texted, heading to the airport. Too excited to sleep. Wish you were coming. I saw the message when I woke at 5:30. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and waited. The call came at 6:47. His name flashed across my screen. I answered on the 4th ring. Good morning. What the hell did you do? His voice was loud enough that I pulled the phone away from my ear. Excuse me. Don't play stupid, Lauren. My boarding pass doesn't work. The airline says the ticket was canceled and the resort says my reservation doesn't exist. I took a slow sip of coffee. Sounds like the payment didn't go through. The payment? His voice cracked with disbelief. You gave me your card. I gave you the card. You watched me book everything. I did. Then what is wrong with you? I set my mug down. The problem is that I never agreed to pay $14,000 for your vacation. There was silence. Then his voice dropped. You said to book whatever I wanted. No. I handed you the card after you told me I was lucky you dated me. You knew what I was doing. I knew exactly what you were doing. People moved around him in the background. I heard rolling suitcases, airport announcements, and a woman asking someone to step away from the counter. Adrian lowered his voice. You embarrassed me. No, Adrian. You embarrassed yourself. His breathing became heavier. You canceled everything just to punish me. I stopped you from spending my money. That's not the same thing. It is when the money belongs to me. He laughed sharply. You're insane. Maybe. I looked out my kitchen window at the pale morning sky. But I'm not your bank anymore. The silence that followed felt different. For the first time, Adrian understood this wasn't an argument he could win by insulting me until I backed down. His tone softened immediately. Lauren, come on. I said nothing. I was joking yesterday. No, you weren't. I say stupid things when I'm frustrated. You meant every word. I didn't. You said, women like me don't get men like you. I was angry. You said I should be grateful you chose me. I didn't mean it like that. How else could you mean it? He exhaled. Okay. Fine. I crossed a line. A line. You humiliated me for 8 months, Adrian. Yesterday was simply the first time you said the quiet part clearly enough for me to hear it. His voice became pleading. Can we not do this while I'm standing in an airport? This is exactly where we should do it. What does that mean? It means we're finished. Another silence. Longer this time. You're breaking up with me. Yes. Over a trip? No. Over who you became when you thought I would keep paying to be loved by you. His voice hardened again. You can't just abandon me here. You're 32 minutes from home. I have luggage. Call a car. I spent money on clothes for this trip. That was your choice. Lauren, please. That word nearly made me laugh. He had never said please when asking for anything that mattered. Not when he wanted expensive dinners. Not when he wanted me to cover his rent after he miscalculated his budget. Not when he demanded the vacation. But now that the airport staff had rejected his ticket, suddenly he remembered manners. I'm sorry, he said. I shouldn't have said those things. You're sorry the trip disappeared. That's not fair. It's completely fair. Can you at least rebook the flight from? No. I'll apologize properly when I get back. No. We can fix this. No. His breathing became uneven. Do you really want to throw away 8 months? You threw them away when you decided my value was measured by what I would buy for you. Lauren, I'm blocking your number after this call. You're being dramatic. You're standing in Banton Airport demanding I purchase a luxury vacation after insulting me. I don't think I'm the dramatic one. His voice rose again. You led me on. I let you reveal yourself. That's manipulative. And telling me I'm lucky you tolerate me isn't. He had no answer. I continued before he could invent one. Call one of those women who would supposedly book the trip without blinking. Maybe one of them can help. Lauren, don't do this. I already did. I hung up. Then I blocked him. His number. His email. Every social media account. For the first time in months, my apartment felt like it belonged to me again. At 712, an unknown number called. I ignored it. A voicemail appeared. Lauren, it's Adrian. I'm using someone else's phone. Please answer. I'm sorry, okay? I'm really sorry. You can't leave me here like this. Call me back. I deleted it. At 8:30, my friend Rachel called. She had introduced us at the gallery opening. Lauren, what happened? Her voice was cautious. Adrian called me crying. He said you offered him a trip and then canceled everything while he was at the airport. That's his version. He said it was some kind of cruel test. I leaned back in my chair. Do you want the truth? I told her everything. The comments about my apartment. The criticism of my clothes. The way he treated my friends. The constant comparisons. The demand that I fund the vacation. And finally, the sentence that had destroyed whatever remained between us. Rachel stayed quiet for several seconds. I had no idea. Most people didn't. I'm so sorry. It isn't your fault. I never would have introduced you if I knew he acted like that. He was careful around other people. Rachel Sahil. Are you okay? I looked around my apartment. At the mug on my desk. At the sunlight creeping across the floor. At the empty chair where Adrian had sat while spending my money. I think I'm better than okay. By noon, Adrian had posted online. He wrote that someone he trusted had deliberately stranded him at an airport after promising him a dream vacation. He called it emotional abuse. He called it financial control. He said he had learned that some people use money to punish those they claim to love. The comments filled quickly. Some people sympathized, others asked questions. My friend Marcus commented beneath the post, "Did you include the part where you told Lauren she was lucky you dated her before charging over $14,000 to her card?" The comment disappeared within minutes. Then Adrian blocked him. Marcus sent me a screenshot. He's rewriting the whole story. I stared at the image. For a moment, the old instinct returned, the urge to defend myself, explain everything, prove I wasn't cruel. Then I closed the message. Adrian could tell whatever story made him sleep at night. The people who mattered would eventually recognize the truth. And the ones who didn't had never really known me. Thursday morning, another call came. This time, the woman introduced herself before I could hang up. "Lauren, this is Margaret Carter, Adrian's mother." I had met her twice. Both dinners had ended with Adrian correcting her stories, criticizing her clothes, and making jokes about his parents' ordinary lifestyle. Her voice sounded strained. "I'm calling because I'd like to help resolve this misunderstanding." "There's nothing to resolve. Adrian said you two had an argument, and you reacted by canceling his trip. Did he tell you what he said before booking it?" "He said he made a joke that you took personally." I almost admired his consistency. He told me I was lucky he dated me. He said women like me don't get men like him. Then he demanded my credit card and spent more than $14,000. Margaret said nothing. He said that, yes, that doesn't sound like Adrian. It sounds exactly like Adrian. Just not the version he shows you. Her breathing changed. Quieter, heavier. He told me you offered to pay. I did not. He said the trip was supposed to be a gift. It wasn't. Another pause. Then Margaret whispered, "He's done this before." My fingers tightened around the phone. "What?" She seemed to regret saying it immediately. "Nothing. I shouldn't have." "Margaret, what did you mean?" Her answer came slowly. His last girlfriend accused him of using her financially. The room seemed to tilt. Adrian had always described his ex-girlfriend Vanessa as unstable and obsessed with money. He said she had tried to control him. He said she resented his success. Now, for the first time, I wondered whether I had been listening to a confession disguised as a warning. Margaret exhaled. I thought she was exaggerating. So did I. "I'm sorry, Lauren." Her apology sounded sincere. But it arrived 8 months too late. "I hope you talk to your son." "I will. Please tell him not to contact me again." "I understand." After we hung up, I remained seated for a long time. The airport had not been the beginning of Adrian's downfall. It had only been the first place where someone finally refused to rescue him from the consequences of being himself. Friday evening, Adrian sent me an email. It arrived at 9:18 p.m. with the subject line, "Request to talk." The wording was so formal that for a moment I wondered whether someone else had written it for him. He began by saying he had taken time to reflect. He admitted that his comments had been inappropriate and hurtful. He claimed he had never intended to make me feel inferior. Then came a paragraph about how much he valued our relationship, how 8 months should not be discarded over one misunderstanding, and how mature couples worked through conflict instead of walking away. I read that paragraph twice, not because it moved me, because it was almost impressive how carefully he had removed himself from every sentence. There was no mention of the insults, no mention of the demand, no mention of the fact that he had tried to spend more than $14,000 of my money. Just vague language about mutual hurt and miscommunication. Then I reached the final section. That was where the truth appeared. He wrote that while he understood why I had been upset, canceling the trip had caused unnecessary financial losses. He suggested we meet to discuss recovering the non-refundable fees. He also proposed planning a less expensive vacation together in the future as a gesture of compromise. I leaned back in my chair. There it was. The apology had lasted 4 paragraphs. The entitlement had survived all of them. I typed my response, slowly. Adrian, I appreciate that you apologized, but I am not interested in reconciliation. What happened was not a misunderstanding. You told me I was lucky you dated me, demanded access to my money, and spent more than $14,000 without my agreement. The cancellation fees were charged to me, not you. You lost a vacation you expected me to finance. I lost money learning who you really were. Do not contact me again. Lauren. I read it once, then sent it. His reply came 11 minutes later. You don't have to be so cold. I blocked the new email address. The following week he tried reaching me through Daniel, one of our mutual friends. Daniel called during my lunch break. Adrian asked me to pass along a message. I'm not interested. He says he only wants closure. He had closure at the airport. Daniel went quiet. Then he said he's telling people you deliberately baited him. I handed him the card. That part is true. But I didn't make him spend $14,000. No. I didn't make him insult me. No. I didn't make him believe my silence meant he owned my money. Daniel Saihu. I told him pretty much the same thing. Then why are you calling me? Because he won't stop asking. That sounds like his problem. There was another pause. For what it's worth, Daniel said, I'm sorry. I never saw that side of him. Neither did I at first. I ended the call and returned to work. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, my building's front desk called. Miss Mitchell, there's a man here asking to see you. My stomach tightened. Who? He says his name is Adrian Carter. I closed my eyes. Do not send him up. He says it's urgent. It isn't. There was muffled conversation in the background. Then the concierge returned. He says he brought your belongings. I don't have anything at his place. He has a box. I knew what Adrian was doing. He had brought props. A sweatshirt. A toothbrush. A book I had probably forgotten months ago. Anything that gave him an excuse to appear reasonable while forcing me into a conversation. Tell him to leave the box at the desk. Another muffled exchange. The concierge returned again. He says he will only give it to you personally. Then tell him to take it home. Adrian remained in the lobby for 27 minutes. I know because the concierge called me twice more. The second time, Adrian was apparently pacing. The third time, he had started telling strangers that his emotionally unstable ex-girlfriend refused to return his calls. I stayed upstairs. Eventually, security escorted him outside. That night, I changed the access code connected to my apartment and asked management to place his photograph at the desk. It felt dramatic. It also felt necessary. The strangest part of ending things with Adrian was realizing how much of my life had narrowed around him. I had stopped going to weekly dinners with my sister because Adrian found her judgmental. I had stopped attending game nights with Marcus because Adrian called them childish. I had abandoned the pottery class I loved because he said spending Saturday mornings shaping bowls was not exactly aspirational. He had never forbidden me from doing anything. He had simply made every source of joy feel embarrassing until I gave it up voluntarily. So I began taking things back. The first Saturday after the airport, I returned to pottery class. My hands were clumsy. The clay collapsed twice. I laughed harder than I had in months. The following week, I met my sister for dinner. She studied me across the table. You look different. Good, different, lighter. I smiled. I feel lighter. She didn't say I told you so. That made me love her more. Marcus pulled me back into our old group chat. Rachel invited me to an outdoor movie. Daniel apologized for involving himself in Adrian's attempt to reach me. Little by little, my life expanded again. 3 weeks after the breakup, I met Ethan Brooks. It happened at a coffee shop near my office. He was standing in front of me in line, trying to balance 2 books, a laptop, and a cup without spilling anything. One of the books slid from his arm. I caught it before it hit the floor. Good reflexes, he said. Occupational hazard. What do you do? Software engineering. That explains it. It explains catching books. No. But it sounded confident. I laughed. It was such an ordinary exchange. No performance. No polished introduction. No calculated charm. He was a middle school history teacher. He liked old movies, badly drawn maps, and taking long walks without calling them hiking. We spoke for 15 minutes before he asked whether I wanted to have coffee with him sometime. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant. When the bill arrived, Ethan reached for it, then stopped. How do you usually handle this? The question caught me off guard. What do you mean? I'm happy to pay. Or we can split it. I don't want to assume. Such a small thing, but after Adrian, it felt enormous. Let's split it, I said. Perfect. No wounded pride. No joke about my salary. No test disguised as generosity. Just two adults paying for dinner. We started seeing each other casually. I told him I wanted to take things slowly. He respected that. When I canceled one evening because work ran late, he did not accuse me of choosing my career over him. He brought me coffee the next morning and left it with the receptionist. When I mentioned pottery class, he asked to see what I had made. I showed him a crooked bowl with one side slightly higher than the other. He held it carefully. I like it. You don't have to lie. I'm not. It looks honest. That word stayed with me. Honest. Adrian had always wanted everything polished. The apartment, the vacations, the clothes, the photographs, even the relationship. As long as it looked enviable, he did not care what it felt like. Ethan was different. He noticed how things felt. One evening, as we walked back from dinner, he asked why my last relationship had ended. I told him the simple version. My ex tried to book a luxury trip on my card after telling me I was lucky he dated me. Ethan stopped walking. He said that to you. Yes. And then used your card. Yes. What happened? I canceled the trip while he was at the airport. Ethan stared at me. Then unexpectedly he laughed. Not cruelly. In disbelief. That may be the most efficient breakup I've ever heard. I laughed too. For the first time, the memory did not hurt. It belonged to a life I had already left behind. A week later, Rachel told me Adrian was still telling people I had financially abused him. Apparently, he had added new details. He claimed I had promised him the trip months earlier. He claimed I controlled all our shared finances. We had never shared finances. He claimed I had encouraged him to quit his job. He still had his job. Each version became more dramatic than the last. But fewer people believed him. Vanessa, his ex-girlfriend, eventually contacted Rachel after seeing one of his posts. She told her Adrian had done something similar during their relationship. Not a trip. A motorcycle. He had pressured her into financing it, then accused her of sabotaging his dreams when she refused. Suddenly, Margaret's words made sense. He's done this before. I considered contacting Vanessa. I wanted to compare stories, to confirm every suspicion, but I decided against it. I no longer needed more evidence. Adrian had already shown me enough. The hardest truth was not that he had used me. It was that I had helped him do it by constantly doubting my own discomfort. I had mistaken endurance for loyalty, silence for patience, self-erasure for compromise. The breakup did not teach me how cruel Adrian could be. It taught me how long I had been cruel to myself. 1 month after the airport, I deleted the last photograph of us from my phone. I expected sadness. Instead, I felt nothing. Not anger, not longing, not regret. I realized I did not miss Adrian. I missed the man I had believed he might become. And that man had never existed. 2 months after the airport, my life felt almost unrecognizable. Not because anything dramatic had happened. That was the point. There were no screaming arguments, no disappearing acts, no carefully worded apologies that somehow ended with me owing someone money. There was work, pottery, dinner with my sister, weekend coffee with Ethan, ordinary things, peaceful things, things Adrian would have called boring. I had once believed excitement was proof of love. Now I understood that chaos could feel exciting too. That did not make it love. Ethan never asked me to prove myself through money. He did not compare me with other women. He did not treat generosity like an obligation. When I worked late, he brought dinner. When he had a difficult week at school, I listened. Sometimes I paid. Sometimes he paid. Sometimes we split everything down the middle. Nothing had to be negotiated through guilt. One Friday evening, we sat on the floor of my apartment, eating takeout from cartons, because neither of us felt like finding plates. Ethan looked around. I like this place. I smiled. Starter home energy. He frowned. What does that mean? Nothing. I laughed, but something inside me tightened. He noticed. Was that something Adrian used to say? I nodded. Ethan set his fork down. You know, people reveal a lot by what they try to make you ashamed of. I looked at him. He made me feel like everything I liked was too small. Maybe small things scared him. Why? Because small things can't be used to impress strangers. The answer landed softly. Ethan had a way of saying something simple that opened a locked room in my mind. I thought of Adrian photographing expensive meals before touching them, correcting the angle of my face in pictures, complaining when my gifts were thoughtful but not impressive enough to post online. He had wanted an audience more than a partner. A few days later, I ran into him. It happened at a grocery store on a rainy Tuesday evening. I was standing near the produce section, comparing 2 bags of apples when I felt someone watching me. I looked up. Adrian stood at the other end of the aisle. For a second, neither of us moved. He looked almost exactly the same. Expensive coat, perfect hair, that expression of calculated confidence. But something had changed. Maybe it was only that I no longer saw him through hope. Without hope, charm becomes easier to recognize as performance. He took 1 step toward me. Lauren. I picked up the apples. Hey. His eyes searched my face. You look good. Thank you. I've been thinking about you. I almost laughed. Instead, I placed the apples in my cart. I'm doing well. I heard. From who? People. Of course. Adrian had always treated mutual friends like unpaid reporters. He glanced at the cart. Are you still seeing that teacher? I felt no need to answer, which must have shown on my face. He gave a small smile. Right. I started to walk away. Lauren, wait. I stopped, but I did not turn around completely. What? He lowered his voice. I just want you to know I'm not angry anymore. The old version of me would have tried to explain that his anger had never mattered. The new version understood that the sentence was designed to place him above me, to make forgiveness sound like a gift only he could grant. That's good, I said. His smile faltered. I've done a lot of reflecting. I'm glad. I know I made mistakes. I waited. He seemed disappointed when I did not help him finish. Finally, he said, but what you did was extreme too. There it was. Even now, even after 2 months, every apology still required equal blame. You haven't changed, I said. His face tightened. That's not fair. It is. You canceled an entire trip while I was at the airport. You spent my money after insulting me. You gave me the card. And you showed me exactly what you would do with access. He folded his arms. You wanted me to fail. No. I looked directly at him. I wanted to stop protecting you from your own choices. His eyes hardened. That sounds like something your therapist told you. I don't have a therapist. Then maybe that teacher is putting ideas in your head. I smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile you give when a final puzzle piece clicks into place. Adrian could not imagine a woman reaching clarity without a man influencing her. You should go, I said. Lauren. Goodbye, Adrian. He called my name again. I kept walking. No dramatic confrontation. No public humiliation. No final speech. I chose apples, paid for my groceries, and went home. That was closure. Not winning. Not watching him suffer. Simply reaching a point where his words could no longer change the temperature of my day. A week later, Rachel told me Adrian was dating someone new. Her name was Celeste. She worked in luxury real estate and came from a wealthy family. According to his social media, they had already taken a weekend trip to Miami. Rachel showed me a photograph of Adrian standing beside a rooftop pool, one arm around Celeste's waist. The caption read, "Finally, with someone who matches my energy." I handed the phone back. Rachel studied me. "You okay?" "Completely." "You don't want to warn her." I thought about Vanessa, about myself, about the stories Adrian had probably already told Celeste. Maybe he had described us both as jealous, controlling women who could not handle his ambition. Maybe she would believe him. I once had. "No," I said. "Why not?" "Because she doesn't know me, and he's probably already made sure she won't trust anything I say." Rachel frowned. "That's depressing." "It is. What if he does the same thing to her? Then I hope she leaves sooner than I did." The truth was, I did not wish Adrian misery. I simply no longer felt responsible for preventing it. People like him survive by making other people manage the consequences of their behavior. Their parents excuse them. Their partners finance them. Their friends defend them. Their exes remain silent because telling the truth feels exhausting. Then when one person finally steps aside, they call it betrayal. My sister asked me once whether I regretted handing Adrian the credit card. We were sitting in the same restaurant where she had first warned me about him. I considered the question carefully. Yes and no. That's not an answer. I regret that I didn't just say no. She nodded. But part of me needed to see how far he would go. And he went $14,000 far. $14,247.53. She raised her glass. To clarity. I touched mine to hers. To expensive clarity. The dispute was resolved in my favor. Most of the pending charges were reversed. I still lost money through a few non-refundable fees, but less than I had feared. Some people online insisted I had committed fraud because I had physically handed him the card. I knew what had happened. So did the credit card company. Possessing someone's card is not the same as receiving unlimited permission to spend whatever you want. I had agreed to nothing. Adrian had mistaken access for ownership. That mistake defined our entire relationship. He believed that because I loved him, my time belonged to him. My money belonged to him. My friendships could be discarded for him. My confidence could be reduced if it made him feel taller. The trip was not the real problem. It was only the clearest example. People asked whether canceling everything was petty. Maybe it was. Maybe a more mature person would have stopped him before he clicked confirm. Maybe I should have taken the card back and ended the relationship at my kitchen table. But there are moments when you are not trying to teach someone a lesson. You are trying to prove something to yourself. I needed to know that I could stop him. I needed to see that his power over me only existed while I kept surrendering mine. The airport was not revenge. It was the first boundary he could not talk me out of. 3 months after we met, Ethan came with me to pottery class. He made a bowl worse than mine. It leaned so far to one side that the instructor gently suggested turning it into an ashtray. Ethan looked offended. "I don't smoke." "It could hold keys," I said. "It could hold 1 key." We laughed until the instructor shushed us. Later, walking home, Ethan carried both crooked bowls in a cardboard box. He glanced at me. "What?" "Nothing." "You're smiling." "I'm happy." He nodded as though happiness did not require explanation. That was when I understood the difference. Adrian had always wanted evidence. Receipts. Reservations. Photographs. Price tags. Ethan did not need love to look expensive. He just needed it to feel honest. When someone tells you that you are lucky, they chose you. Listen carefully. They are not expressing love. They are establishing a hierarchy. They are telling you they believe the relationship is a favor. And once someone believes they are doing you a favor by staying, they will expect repayment. Maybe in money, maybe in silence, maybe in the gradual surrender of everything that made you yourself. I used to think being alone was the worst possible outcome. Adrian taught me otherwise. Loneliness is not always the absence of a partner. Sometimes it is sitting beside someone who treats your love like a resource to extract. Sometimes it is shrinking your life to make another person feel important. Sometimes it is convincing yourself that disrespect is simply the price of being chosen. I would rather be alone than audition every day for a place in my own relationship. Adrian told me, women like me did not get men like him. He was right. Women like me eventually learn not to want them. And sometimes, the best revenge is not destroying someone's life. It is refusing to keep funding the version of themselves they sell to the world. It is taking back your money, your time, your peace, then walking away without turning around.